Welcome to Taking the Rams by the Horns, a podcast that takes current affairs out of current affairs. This is a podcast in partnership with Sowetan Live. I'm your host, Rams Mabote. Now, it's just been over a year I've been doing this podcast and I've interviewed a few politicians, but I swear I have never ever taken a chance on a politician who, if he took over government, the first thing he's going to do is nationalize my show and probably give it to someone like Andile Lungisa. I mean, this podcast could go something like, welcome to Hitting the Opposition with a Jug. My name is Andile Lungisa. Well, so today, as you can hear him laughing, and by the way, he took my chair. I'm sitting on the wrong side of my studio, but it's okay. It's okay. This is not a revolutionary house. I'm privileged to host the leader and president of the Economic Freedom Fighters, who plans to finally implement the elusive socialism and nationalize everything, including the Zimbabweans living in this country. When the EFF takes over, guys, no one will be called Zimbabwean and Congolese. We'll all be South Africans, and I will not have a podcast that takes the mickey out of politicians. That will be illegal. Because when he takes over, the entire country will be, as he once said, a revolutionary house. No time for satire and sarcasm. Anyway, it doesn't matter, because for the next 3 years, we can't even get to celebrate the anniversary of this episode, because there won't be another 29th of February until 4 years from now. So what happens today is just a figment of your imagination. Julius Malema, welcome to the reactionary house. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. It has been a minute. I almost gave up on this conversation.
No, there's no way. It was going to happen.
You promised no It
was meant to happen. No, I did. Yes, I did.
There were witnesses. Cameras were rolling when you promised me this thing.
Yes, that's why I had to make it.
Thank you for coming to this small building. I mean, you used to put Moses Mapida with overflow. You know, because size does matter to you.
Yeah, indeed. In politics, size matters.
I know. Are you going to nationalize the media? I need to prepare myself for the next.
You can't nationalize the media. The media will have its own media freedom. It has to report factually without being biased. Yeah. And the state must also have its own capacity to communicate its message without having to rely on a privatized media, because most of the time there isn't sufficient space from the media houses to communicate your message, because mostly are commercial. They want to drive adverts, they want to make money.
Drama, we want drama.
Yeah, they want drama, and there's no information. So why do you have GCIS? If you can't have a proper media platform of the state that will communicate with a very little hassle.
You know, I'll give you one thing. I agree with you there, because sometimes I feel my colleagues, sometimes they shortchange government communication in focusing too much in what people say against government.
Yes.
Right? So
yes. So, and then as a result, we end up saying we don't know what this government is doing. I mean, if you look at the backlash on public health, that it has collapsed and all of that, we are in agreement, all of us. But if you're to be taken to Steve Biko Hospital, it's a well-run, professional hospital and it's state-owned.
Yes.
So, but they are unable to communicate that effectively, so they're always on a back foot to say, no, we hear you, but it doesn't mean it is all the same.
But I'm sure I mean, you should nationalize strip clubs and brothels. All men should be equal before a strip dancer.
Well, we will not. We'll make sure we legalize sex work so that it's properly regulated, and the sex workers are protected against potential harassment by police and customers. So it is a profession that has been there for quite some time. Whether I like it or not, I can't do away with it. All I can do is to create a conducive environment for it. And people out of poverty, some out of their own voluntary thing, decide this is the kind of career I want to pursue. The ANC used its majority to reject it. We're talking gardeners, we're talking cleaners, we're talking security guards, we're talking maintenance guys. So people who are exploited. Your father comes to Johannesburg to be a security guard for 30 years to 50 years. When he comes back, he has nothing. And in
absolutely
most cases, nothing. In Limpopo, we no, and all of that.
No
it's
pension,
not true.
nothing.
That's it. Because though he was working at Johannesburg municipality building, for all those years, security companies kept on changing, but they kept the men. The condition is that when you come in with a new security company, you're going to absorb these workers.
Yes.
They move from one security company to the other.
City.
They don't belong to the city.
This private company.
The private companies, they keep on changing on them. That's why there's no pension fund. There's no medical aid. There are no paid leaves. We did that in Johannesburg.
Well, you demonstrated in Joburg. Actually.
And even
I remember
vets.
that you even showed that then, for example,
Yes.
the security company would be paid 8,000 rand for SIPO.
Yes.
But he only gets 2.
Yes. And when we removed, it's not even paid, when we remove the security guards from the private company, we moved from 7.5 to 13 million. 13,000. 7.5 to 13,000. And then he's got medical aid. Then he's got pension.
Without
fund.
increasing the cost on the cities.
No, this is our budget. This is what is available now.
Wow.
So it gets paid to this middleman. Then they come later to say, okay, fine. Firearms are disappearing. These people don't know how to use a firearm. We say, that's the problem. You can't in-source people and not take them for training. You are the employer now. You are responsible to further the training of these people on how to handle firearms.
Well, then we
on
have
how
to agree
report
that
this.
at least Panyaza is doing it with Nasispani. Would you
No.
agree?
No. Nasispani is an election campaign which is done in a very clumsy way because you are rushing to get these numbers of ANC volunteers who gets paid through the state fund to go and put up ANC posters, to go and put up ANC leaflets all over, and then they're paid by the state. Because look at him. He tried it at Orlando Stadium. 30,000 people are going to get appointment letters. People didn't go because they're like, it's my appointment letter. We are not a collective job seekers. I'm a job seeker as an individual. I've made an application as an individual. Communicate with me and give me what belongs to me. Don't use me for popularity. So then what happens? He does the State of the Province address. He goes and rent that mob that he has hired to come and fill up the area where he was speaking. Then gets them into buses to go to Moses Mabhida. And so they are a mobile audience. They are paid to be mobile audience of the ANC. And let's say, take Amapanyapany, those guys that are hired for streets.
Yeah.
We won't close that. We will professionalize it. We'll make sure that it is properly, executed in a way that you employ people who are South Africans, who are professional.
When you get them there,
Yes.
do me one favor. Make sure you get them cars with seat belts. Every time
Yes.
I get the seat belts,
Yes. But
please,
it's
do it for
illegal.
me.
They're not trained. They operate like an informal type of a thing. And even when you meet them on the road, I will meet 3 of them, 4 of them walking together, uninspired. You can see that they don't have, they're not driven by anything because they don't know what to do. And rightfully so, because they didn't receive sufficient training.
So on a serious note, Mwele you may have heard of him.
Yeah.
I don't think you know him.
I know him.
Yeah. He says you guys are not socially.
Yeah.
The ANC, you like nice things.
Yeah. Well, that is his own opinion. He says we stay in houses with swimming pools.
Yes.
Who said Fidel Castro didn't have a swimming pool? He doesn't know where Fidel Castro stayed.
Yeah.
All of them don't know where Fidel stayed. Where is this culture of Fidel? What is socialism about cigars? Fidel smokes cigars. Why am I forgetting his name? The former president of Venezuela, who passed on.
Hugo Chavez.
Chavez.
Yeah.
Chavez was a smart dresser. Yeah. Chavez, we can't say Chavez.
By the way, this is an audio podcast, so he's actually a snazzy dresser today, because you must see him today.
So then Chavez is a socialist who gets celebrated by Mwelezi and all of them, and Fidel and all of them, and president of China now.
Yeah.
What is the looks have to do with your commitment to a certain political ideology? You can't say the president of China is not committed to socialism because of how he dresses. Yeah. The president of China doesn't dress like some professor at Vets. You know how those professors dress. They wear even the chinos and some brown shoes. You know, and then you look at that professor who teaches economics dressed like that. Who's a market fundamentalist. He's dressed like that. And you say by the looks, he looks like he supports socialism. No, he can't define. So we are saying to you, when we take over, we'll implement socialist policies. And whether Malema believes it or not, he will see when we take over, because we have never made a commitment which we have never followed through.
So, incidentally, the trade minister of Zimbabwe this week said something, which is an irony because I don't know if there's trade in Zimbabwe. That's not the point. Well, there is trade. She said that no foreigner should run businesses in Zimbabwe. I mean, that feels like a slight on you saying, across the road,
so, my bra, because someone is doing something wrong and says something wrong, now must join that. So that, no, we must be equal. No, I can't. That's what they believe in. And I don't know who will go to Zimbabwe now to go and do business there. Especially the fields that he's talking about. I know Zimbabwe is trading tobacco. There is still gold. There is platinum. Actually, some studies were suggesting that our Zimbabwean platinum and our platinum and that of Zimbabwe combined constitute almost 85% of the world.
It's very
platinum.
possible.
So there's still platinum there. So there's some trade going on. Whether they are doing it right or not, I don't know. But that's where the Chinese interests come in. But we're not saying no foreigner must come and trade in South Africa, because Zimbabweans are no foreigners in South Africa. They're Africans. So that's why you are wrong in your joke to say we are all going to be South Africans. We are all going to go back to being Africans. Because that's the problem with you South Africans. You think you are a Europe of Africa, that you are not part of the continent. We need to go back to our continent and identify with it, and it must be borderless. And borderless does not mean criminality. Europeans have a borderless continent called Europe. They trade with ease. You can have a breakfast.
They travel with ease. They go to a football match the same night they back home.
You have breakfast in Milan in Italy and then sleep in London with no hassle. So, and then when it comes to us, because the unity of Africans threatens them, they say no.
Well, don't get me wrong. Personally, I'd be very. If you gave all Ethiopian women South African citizenship, I'd be the happiest person, right? I think they're harmless people generally, when I think about them.
No. I think Ethiopia, we have gone too far. There's a club now which was playing in AFCON.
Cabo Verde.
Yeah, Cabo Verde.
I hate all of us.
There was a huge problem because we had to block buses of South African men leaving to visit those people.
Are you worried about the ANC? They had 300 more people at Moses Mabhida, I'm told, than the EFF. Are you worried that they still a force to be reckoned with?
No. We filled up Moses Mabhida with KZN people alone. We filled up FNB with the whole of South Africa. Yeah. Why? You can only take the country to a bigger venue. You can't take the country to a small venue. So we take KZN alone. They bring the whole of South Africa, and you still say it's a competition. It is not. We've won the race. They are still to go to FNB as we speak now. And whereas with the whole South Africa, right, they still don't go to the overflow. Paid for.
No, there was an overflow in the beach. I saw people swimming in the beaches.
Yeah. Then the overflow goes to the beach. That's what happens when you take people from Vembe, all the way from Venda to go to Moses Mabhida. There's no way they will avoid the beach. There's no way. There's an opportunity of a lifetime. So that's a risk they took. And didn't work. And knowing Balula. Remember, we once did, when we were still in the ANC, the 2 stadiums. That Moses Mabhida and Absa Stadium. At the same time. So he can't do that now. That's a sign of a decline. We did that. When we're in the ANC, 2 stadiums with KZN alone. We once did 2 stadiums here, Johannesburg Stadium and
Ellis Park.
Ellis Park.
Yeah.
They are next to each other.
Yeah.
Same day, right? And then connected all big stadiums in South Africa, all full to capacity. And then address from Johannesburg Stadium. Yeah. When we were addressing at Johannesburg Stadium, we carried live in all the stadiums. Yes. There was no program running except running from Johannesburg. That is the day Mandela came. When Zuma was a president, Mandela came to the stadium. Winnie was there. Winnie was wearing some bandage on the leg, on the hand. Yeah. So we did that on the same day. They will never do that now. Why? It's a sign of a decline. It's a practical, scientific sign of a decline. Now we dealt with numbers. You have a young man called Malema with his collective of young women and men calling a rally in a Moses Mabhida, fill it up. The same way as you, who have a state president, a deputy state president, who has all the premiers, who has 30 ministers and whatever number of deputy ministers and all number of mayors. MECs. And then you've got estate resources. That's why you can land with the police chopper inside the stadium. That's how much resource you have. And then you are still beaten by these people without having all of this. And, we, unlike COPE, also don't have former presidents who's our Dalai Lama behind us, former deputy president, former ministers.
Speaking of which, don't you feel slighted by Msholos? I mean, you even went to have tea with him. He should have joined you. You should have a former president in your ranks now.
Not necessarily that. What we needed was just him to endorse the EFF. But he has now come into the space, and we welcome him to the space.
Is he not a threat, though, to numbers in KZN?
No ways. We did that with MKP being, after it was registered, it was still a hot thing. And we went to KZN, filled up Moses Mabhida with no hassle. No hassle. Nicely executed. And what I like about that thing is that you get to give people each one of them. People think you are buying people with food. I went to Nelson Makamu's studio yesterday. So when I walk in, I see them, they are cooking. I'm like, this is proper. So we sit for over 2 hours. This food is not coming. I'm like, where is that food now? So then he said, no, Chief, we organize the CIC. Then he gives me food. It's not buying me. That's us. When people visit you, to show they are welcome, they must be offered.
Please have some water.
Yes, thank you.
You have water.
You must offer them water.
Some water, and it's very good water.
And you know what happens? Yeah. We go there, we hire 20 black African, predominantly women-owned catering companies. And we say to them, you cook for all these people. They execute that plan properly, without white supervision. Ourselves, we do it, deliver it with no hassle. Everybody lives peacefully. And you know what we do? Then the ANC finishes. There are people left. All people left at the stadium. The buses have left them. With us, when the rally is done, the Secretary General sits at the venue until the last person leaves. We have a tent that we call Lost and Found. Whoever lost the bus, any item, you go there. And then we've got taxis, not less than 100. We establish a taxi rank at the venue to take these people home. Immediately, once the police have swept the place, they say, now we are clear, these are the only people we have. Then we put them in the taxis, we take them home because we respect them. For whatever reason, it's nice in the stadium, they are overwhelmed by the beach, and the next thing, the bus leaves them. It's a human error that we have to take care of it. And we do that. That's why there's no video that will come out of EFF Moses Mabhida that people are left stranded, the EFF doesn't care about people. This is a 10-year-old organization.
So other than coming to listen to Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi singing, why should I vote for the EFF?
If you're unemployed, 90 million jobs are going to be created. You need jobs. And we cannot be a country that prides itself with having a concept called unemployed graduate. It must be an insult. It must be a taboo. No graduate must be unemployed.
In fact, you specifically speak about artisans and engineers and how they gotta create jobs.
Once, Polokwane TVET, its courses must be linked with the industries that are relevant in Polokwane. And some of these kids, as they are still at school, they must be taking practicals in those institutions, and CITA providing money to these companies to pay these kids stipends, to give them both theoretical and practice at the same time. When they leave, already those companies would have chosen 10 of them, 20 of them. You guys, when you are done, you're coming straight here. Doctors, to be a doctor, it takes a lot of time, and not only
7 years.
a lot of money.
Yeah.
You finish.
Cost us about 1.2 million per annum.
Yeah,
to train
you finish, you still have to toy to march for a job. We can never have enough doctors. Not in our country like this. Every doctor, 6 months before they graduate, they should have been linked to a hospital. Immediately, that when you leave here, your job is waiting for you. And then, especially where they were doing those practicals.
Yeah.
They're already familiar with the environment, they are there, and all of that. Rob Rossi's daughter, Rob Rossi is one of the richest guys. She's a doctor, was working somewhere in Charlotte Maxeke or something, was doing practicals there.
Yeah.
Worked there so nice, and then she left to work in London. Then I later meet her. What happened? She says to me, I will never, ever undermine the experience I got in South Africa compared to, remember, even when she goes to London, she must still go for a year or two, the training of London. She says, there is no training better than that of South Africa.
We hear that a lot about so many things.
Yeah,
what's wrong?
We do. There's no trauma unit that is functional there, because there are no accidents. There's no one who's going to put an X on your head, and then doctors must be taking it out and
or beat you up in parliament as you're trying to
beat you up in parliament as you call a point of order, like you have mad at someone. Yeah. No, she said that's the best, but the problem was the environment was not conducive. There are so many simple things, Julius, that can be done, but it's so discouraging. I don't understand, Rams. And Floyd makes this point very clear in a joking way. He says, the deputy president of the EFF, he says, when you walk into a government building, it's like there are no adults in that building. So I'm like, why do you say that? There are no adults. How can a ceiling fall and there is an adult here who doesn't get concerned about the ceiling? This adult walks into this office every day. Leave that. Then we go and check. Is there no maintenance? There is multi-million tender of maintenance issued and is being invoiced every day to look after that. So I'm like, adults, only children will not be concerned because they will not know how to fix this. So we know at home when something goes wrong, the adults come in
quickly.
So there are no adults in these government buildings, adults who say, no, but this is wrong. To have a pile of debt in a hospital, not collected. It can be. And then you say there are no jobs. When there is a pile of debt, people can be hired directly, insourced, to clean a hospital.
But money is out for that job. So it's not so much about people being hired. It's because somebody's taking the money and not doing the job.
And they are sharing it. It's not only him. It's him and politicians, and not only politicians, including administrators. If you go to municipalities, there are certain city managers who are more powerful than the mayor and the executive combined. They were telling me one of the city managers was chairing a mayor committee where the mayor must chair. That's so strange. You can see she has paid all of them. No one can tell her anything. She has paid all of them. So I'm like, I can never be a leader where my subordinate climbs on top of my head. I will never allow that. So it's corruption that has made people to be paralyzed in their responsibilities and undecisive. Because I always say,
and how are you going to deal with it? If you go back to the country that you like so much, China, that would never happen in China.
It has to be punishable.
They also execute them.
And for good reasons, when we hire you as a city manager, after we fired the corrupt one and arrested him, we must take your children to prison to see the person who occupied that position before you. And your wife, we say to them, you see this guy, it's where your husband is where this guy was. If your husband follows in the footsteps of this guy, he's going to end up here. So that when you come back home with BMW 7 Series, your daughter must say, Papa, Uchirika 7 Series. Where? Le Musadi are where? Why it's about Ronco. So it must start at home. It must be a collective responsibility to nip on the bud corruption. The reason why corruption is prevailing is not punishable. We're still to see leadership that is caught with evidence. Guedemantage, he never refused. He said, Busasa put the cameras.
He admitted.
And then Thabang Makwetla says, I'm waiting for invoice after 5 years or so. What madness is that?
Well, the post office doesn't work. Maybe the invoice is lost.
There's no way. That time post office was working. It's not working now. That time the post office was working. The email is still working. Nomvula admitted to have eaten the chickens. She was given chickens for sure. This December she was in serious trouble because no more chickens from Bosasa. But she admitted that I've eaten the chickens. None of those people have refused, have denied that these allegations are not true. No, they've accepted. But they are still to be charged. Yet they serve under the corrupt-free, clean president.
Do you reckon that's why the ANC, in your view, is losing support?
Absolutely.
Or is it more that they're not, is corruption more important to people than job creation? Are they even?
Yeah,
what are the people looking at?
They want to eat, and now they're crazy now, because this release of stats is making them doubt if they will come back. They have gone on aggressive looting. The biggest target now is student accommodation, because to them there is no single politician, maybe Naledi Pandor or something, or Nkosazana. But these ministers, there's no single one of them who's not interested in student accommodation, because that's where the money is. So they say student accommodation will resolve their long-term problem because they are living. So they are more about eating. Rams, let's leave now. We can leave this podcast and go to, and that's so painful. And I called TK about it. And I tagged Panyaza about it, that we must take a walk in Johannesburg City.
I can't do that.
A pile of dead.
I can't do that.
In front of a gate of Noord Taxiring, where our people frequent every day.
In hundreds of thousands.
Right on their eyes. You can't clean after them. And then I asked, they say no, city parks, whatever they call it, said they've met their target in terms of cleaning. They don't know what you're talking about. What target? It doesn't matter whether they met the target. I'm saying the debt is here now. Now, as we speak, you get out of a building, there is a debt just outside the building. Why? Why would you say, okay, these people are not obsessed with eating? What are they obsessed with? Because this shouldn't be here. A mayor wakes up every day, drives on a road with potholes, and has got all the power to fix the potholes. Why can't you stop on that road and park on the side and tell them?
Credit. At least they erect a sign saying potholes here.
Yeah, Gitenda. sign that sign get tender. Bancha sign your there is a pothole ye tender. Then by uncha tender to patch the pothole. And then when they patch the pothole, they don't even dig a bit so that the tar they're going to put goes deeper. They go and put it on top because they know it's going to be washed away.
Sometimes they even do it on gravel like the president did.
Yes.
But let's move on to something else.
Yes.
And I don't seem to have picked it up in the manifesto. Policy on nationalization of banks. Are you still there? Look, firstly, I think you must nationalize my bank, right? I mean, these guys woke me up because somebody stole 312. They woke me up at 2 a.m. I'm like, couldn't you wait for 9 a.m.?
No, they shouldn't.
But
no, you must be grateful. They shouldn't. Our nationalization of bank is very simple. We're going to establish a state-owned bank. That is nationalization.
Yeah.
You don't take FNB, you don't take ABSA. You leave them with their racism. And you run efficient state-owned bank that will provide bonds at an affordable rate to our workers first, the state workers. It's so you will cry if you go and see where the teachers are staying, where the police are staying. They've got no access to the bonds. The teacher that taught me geography was driving a white Corolla, and I'm talking now almost 15 years back or so. He's still in that Corolla. Jeez. He's still in that Corolla. He can't afford to buy a new car. Where is the state bank to intervene in that regard? So you need a state bank that will pay salaries. This money that we're paying salaries will pay them from state bank. These social grants that we're going to increase to 4,000 rand for old age grant and all of that, will pay them through the state-owned bank. So don't ask me where's the state going to get the clients. We are our own client.
But somebody says, well, the state would need 250 million rands to establish the bank, which is the rule that's established by the state, or how much it costs to establish a bank.
We've got it. We've got it.
But should we have that rule?
No.
I mean, should we have that? For me, that rule of itself, it says we should. It's not allowing us to get into this economy.
No, it's just to guarantee people's money. Remember,
I do understand that part.
You're dealing with people's money, so we need to guarantee. We need to have this money. So we have the money, and the money is not in the fiscus. The money that is going to establish the state bank is in African Bank. The Reserve Bank has got stake in Nedbank. No, in African Bank. In African Bank. What is the regulator? What is the regulator doing in a bank? Because the Reserve Bank must regulate African Bank. So we either take our stake from African Bank, establish a state-owned bank, or we buy the African Bank. Because we're already in the African Bank. The Reserve Bank is a shareholder there. So our money is there. We've got the money to do a state-owned bank. And don't tell me that, no, it will fail like SAA. And they failed not because of the EFF. I am obsessed with African leaders who know how to do the work. There was a CEO of Telecom called Sipho Maseko.
Sipho Maseko.
You give Sipho a bank, he will run it. He went to revive that thing of Telkom, proper and put it where it is.
He wants to buy it now.
He must buy it. Now, you have such a person who runs such a institution effectively, without problems. He finishes his term, he leaves. The state has got no plan with him. Why? Because he's not an easily corruptible person. I hold no brief for Sipho. There are many others.
Yes.
That are like that. So you have to bring men and women of morals.
And
like the police commissioner of KZN. You put Mukwanas here, you put Masemula here. I should be preferring Masemula as my homeboy. But it's not about that. It's about who is a career policeman, who's scared
effective
of politicians. Because the problem is politicians interfering with the work of the police. So there are a lot of men and women that can do this work.
Let's talk
And
about the
including
Reserve Bank.
white people, by the way. Whites and Indians and
Yes.
colored, they all have a role to play.
Before, I want us to stay with the
Yeah.
banks quickly.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Reserve Bank.
yeah.
Are you still married to the fact that we
We
need to get
should.
rid of these private shareholders?
Let's be part of what the other countries are doing.
Yeah.
And not for anything else, just for sovereignty. That is us. The pride in saying, this is our thing.
Yeah.
And it belongs to us. Why is there a problem when it is state-owned and it's not a problem when it's state-owned in many other countries? More than 70% of countries own their own reserve banks. But we are being told, no, don't do it, don't interfere with it. Because that's where you must be heard. They will hurt you there when they ideologically disagree with you. Remember, Cuba is not in a state it is in because it has killed anybody. It is in a state it is in because of their ideological orientation. You get punished for thinking like that. Why should I be punished to be thinking the way I'm thinking? Cuba, under the embargo of the USA for more than 65 years now, still manages to produce quality doctors and quality life under such circumstances. And you say, no, socialism will not work, state ownership will not work. Imagine if there was no American embargo on Cuba that survived under such difficult conditions and still be able to produce what they are producing without an American embargo. Cuba would have been the best model of a socialist state. So it's not inherently wrong or inherently corrupt or it will inherently collapse because it's state-owned. We don't want to own anything. If you read this manifesto of the EFF and you read the founding manifesto of the EFF, we're saying the ownership of strategic means of our economy. Artlo owner the saloon. You see?
Okay, I didn't plan for that one. I'm not trusting anything.
Yeah.
The lights could go off.
Yeah.
Electricity.
how.
Electricity. Let's talk about electricity.
Okay.
What's the plan?
Okay, why are we not having nuclear? Because these people, when I say, why are we not having nuclear? They say, yeah, but the EFF opposed Zuma's nuclear. No. We oppose the corruption that was accompanying the nuclear. And we said this deal can't go through because it was corrupt. A lot of political hands and underhand were involved in that nuclear. So you must differentiate between nuclear and corruption. Why are we not having nuclear, which can easily give us 6,000 megawatts in South Africa? In the first or 2 years' time, the Russians can come and help us here. That is our plan.
But it would take about 5 to 10 years to get it going.
Yes.
So in the interim, what do we do?
In the interim,
burn more diesel? What do we do?
We don't burn more diesel. We fix the existing power stations because they are deliberately being collapsed so that they can favor the green alternative energy. We are not opposed to green alternative energy. But it is not an immediate solution because it can't even give us more than 1.5, 2,000 megawatts now. They've gone.
Besides,
they've all got.
We still have 200 years of coal.
Absolutely.
Right?
So they all have the licenses now. And then when they say we're going into the load shedding, they don't come in those green companies to provide some alternative relief. They have no capacity. We need to make sure that our coal power stations are properly maintained and are serviced. And then we need Midupi and Kusile to be completed. Not to be told, no, today one unit is up. Let's clap hands. After so many years. Rams, if we failed, we must accept and go and ask the Chinese, who have, if I'm not wrong, one of the biggest coal power stations, to come here and help us. And we have no reason, none whatsoever, to take out any money. There is Chinese available infrastructural
but they
development.
come with their own labor.
No. We are our own conditions.
Yeah.
Yes. You see, there's nothing corrupt with China. The corruption is with our leaders. This is business transaction, my brother. If you negotiate a bad deal, it's your own problem. Your leaders go and use harbors as guarantees. And they know they will never have money to pay the Chinese. When the Chinese now take over your harbor, you say, no, the Chinese came here and took our harbor. But there's no Chinese who came to take the harbor. The leadership said to the Chinese, give us money. If we fail to pay you, here's the harbor. So we're not going to say to the Chinese, come, give us money, we'll pay you. We're saying, come, let's build, let's complete Kusile and Midupi. And certain allocations will be given to you on build, operate, and transfer. And most of the BOTs are not more than 30 years.
Yeah.
We say we're 30 years now. Imagine if they'd intervened in 1994, we'll not be having this problem. So we are saying, let's get the BOTs. It's not a total surrender, but it's to have most powerful coal power stations functioning. That's our base. That's our baseline. Once we have that working, then we can build alternative source of energy, and nuclear will be, they will be completing it in a year or two, and then there's now preparing to get it into operation for the next 3 or 4 years or so. Then we have enough energy. But you can't go and demolish a power station in alternative to one. Yeah. Because when we demolish this 1,000 megawatt power station, we should have built green capacity of 1,000.
Yeah.
So when we collapse this one, we plug this one in. There should be an alternative. You demolish and then you get into darkness and then you get shocked. What type of planning is that? And then these people who are saying to us, don't use coal. We're going to give you money not to use coal. They come and take our coal and they are using it. I mean, I was told the UK is reviving its coal power stations. Yeah. Germany is still using coal.
They're buying lots of our
They're
coal.
buying a lot of our coal. And when you go to Richards Bay, the most of the trucks you see there is coal trucks that are going to Richards Bay to pile there in Richards Bay, and it's leaving. Not only that, China is also using coal. They are the biggest users of coal as well. We are not the ones that are polluting this environment. If you look at our pollution in terms of the globe, our percent is so insignificant.
Should we have not signed that deal?
We shouldn't have.
Yeah.
We shouldn't. We should have operated the way we're operating with the understanding that we're building a clean alternative. Now there is interest to develop more technological capacity to ensure that we minimize the pollution by our coal power stations. And the Chinese are investing in that, and many other people in the world are doing that. Here in South Africa, we've got our young man who a planet was named after from the Eastern Cape. That's a best brain. And it's not only him. There should be now a huge advert on carbon emissions, advanced technology. Please come forward. If you've got an idea on how we can do this, it will be state funded. That's what the Minister of Technology should be investing in innovation and research. And we're speaking much about that in our manifesto, that there should be sufficient research and funding for innovation, because these kids can think. So another one who was doing fuel now in Mpumalanga, he was using something to convert it into fuel. I think it was the plastic caps of bottles, or something like that. They went to lock him up and said, stop doing what you are doing. But I'm like,
what are you doing about that? I'm sure you should be helping.
No, we are intervening.
Yeah.
You must grab this guy. Hey, come here. Yes. What are you doing here? What do you need to make this thing work? Let's see it. They don't do that. What are we waiting for? Americans are going to take that boy. That's how the American army operates. They are not the best in the world. They look for the best ideas in the world and they pouch those ideas. Here in South Africa, we lock up good ideas.
Somebody listening to us now is thinking, but this guy should govern, right?
Yes.
So I'm saying there was an opportunity. You should have run Ekurhuleni when you to go and demonstrate what you can do so that you prepare yourself for the West Wing. No, I'm talking you now, Malema. Prepare yourself for the union buildings and say, like, saying how to run things.
Mandela did it without working in Ekurhuleni. Straight from prison to union building. I was not in prison. I come with a lot of experience. Having been involved as a young activist in the student movement, in the Young Pioneers, in the Youth League, in the ANC PC in Limpopo, and the NEC of the ANC. And I was in the deployment committee of the ANC.
So the minutes will show about the minutes.
Not necessarily. When I was in Limpopo.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of these issues were discussed at that level, and so I come with a huge amount of experience. But from me, you don't expect technical skills. From me, you need a political will. Does he have the political will? And once I've got the political will, I surround myself with men and women who've got the necessary technical skills to get the job done. As long as they've got the head which has got a vision, they are there to support the vision of the head. President Mbeki, clever as he is, he never underestimated the need to surround himself with men and women who've got the necessary expertise.
Funny you should say that. There was a time when you thought he was worse than Mandela. Of course, you also thought that Zuma was worse than Mbeki, and then Ramaphosa now was worse than Zuma.
No. We disagreed with President Mbeki's third term out of democratic principles that we have adopted ourselves.
Yeah.
And when he said he was going for the third term, we didn't agree with that. President Mbeki made a speech in Bloemfontein that we need a female president. From there, had President Mbeki written and justified why we need a female for a president, would have made a female a president, because he was the most feared, he was the most respected, and he could argue his points and put them down in persuasion. Anyone who was going to stand against Phumzile in Polokwane was going to be seen as a sexist and against gender equality. Mbeki was just going to blackmail all of us into a corner. We're like, but look at the facts.
Yes.
Look at politics. Was going to put politics, because now I'm always interested. What are the politics behind this? Once you win me on politics, we can do the rest of it. Had he done that, Zuma would not have been a president. The problem is, he says we need a female president, and for some reason he forgets he's not a female. He stands. And then the reason why you said Zuma, I said Mbeki, is because you want to say I'm a flip-flopper.
That's what they call you.
Yeah, but Mbeki said in Bloemfontein, is on record, we need a female president. He goes and stands.
So you learn from the best.
So why are you not saying it's a flip-flopper? That is a concept reserved to those they disagree with. The ones they love, they don't call them names. And I'm not a flip-flopper, by the way.
Yes.
And I like this thing of social media because the young ones are so creative.
And Baurata on social media.
They go...
We know the vote happened on social media.
They go back in my days to compare what I said now with what I said then. With Zuma, Mbeki, Mandela, Winnie in present. They say, but this guy said these things when he was a child. When I speak about free education, they speak about fees must fall. I led the biggest march here in Johannesburg that stopped this, brought all the students into Johannesburg to demand free education. So I'm not demanding free education now because I want votes. Go back into the archives. You were still there. You were still young and active, a journalist.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, No, he's saying these populist things. He wants votes. He knows he won't be in government. I was in government as the ANC and demanded these things from within. I'm not speaking about something that I'm now saying because I'm out of government. No, I was government. And I said these things then, that let's nationalize the Reserve Bank. Let's expropriate the land without compensation. Mm-hmm. In 2011, conference of the ANC Youth League, where I was elected for the second term, all those resolutions are there. These things I'm saying now. So why do you say no? He says them because he's got a new party, he wants votes. I said them in the ruling party, in government. So you can't say no, I'm using them to garner votes and support. No. Those are the principles I lived by.
We are running out of time. But what happens when, unfortunately, the voters don't bring you in?
Well, I'm here to make a contribution. I'm not obsessed with the union building. My son says to me, okay, Chief, if they don't elect you, 17 years old now in matric, I get it that it looks like if they don't elect you, you're going to get demoralized and pull out of this thing. I'm like, no. It will never happen. I'm a political activist. My interest is in contributing to change the lives of people. And I don't need to be president to do that. I change lives of people now. And I was addressing some function 2-3 days ago in a village where they were celebrating matriculants. And I said to them, I need 2 females who have passed maths and science. But they must come from underprivileged families. And they say, why? You say, that family, they've written it off and they told even these kids nothing will come out of that thing. So I want something to come out of that, please. Someone said, always when they pass, they're like, God, the poor call those ones poor. They say these ones are poor. God, that's how bad
that's
they
how
are.
Bad things
so
are. So
those are the people I want. And I turn their lives like this. And that makes me sleep at night. Not union building. If it happens, God willing, it will happen. If it doesn't happen, it will not stop me from changing the lives of African people.
I'll tell you this much, you are completely without ambition. At least MK is going to run this country ungovernable if they don't win. We're not on ambition. So coalitions, if it gets to that point, would you consider?
We will.
Yeah.
Coalitions are an indication of voters saying you guys must work together. And you can't undermine the voters and say no. We can't work with anyone. You are elected, you are not given sufficient majority, and no one has sufficient majority. The voters are saying, come together and let's see what you can do. That's why I don't agree with the ANC proposal that, no, the one with more numbers must be the one that becomes president. Then what is the point of negotiating? Because the negotiation should mean who's bringing the quality, both in human resource and policy-wise. So let's say we want a premier of Gauteng and we're negotiating. And I bring Dr. Ndlozi here, and then I bring Panyaza here.
Don't look at me. I'm listening to you.
You are a voter. Looking from a distance, you must be able to say, but Dr. Ndlozi is the choice. This is a thinking machine. It's not only, I don't know what God did with that boy. So he gives him the brain, he gives him the voice, he gives him the activism, gives him the humility.
In fact, the lady say he also has the looks. I mean, I can't confirm that.
I don't see.
I can't speak for the ladies.
I always try to look at him like, and I'm always like, but I'm better than this guy. I look much better than. And they don't look at me like that. You see, so, but I hear that. So, but he denied him something. He's short. So, and that's what I always enjoy. So, when people come to celebrate him, they're like, my guy is receiving attention. The same ladies who are saying, no, he's handsome. But you're too short. So
you reckon you should be premier if you go for quality?
Huh? you can't compare. You can't compare. And in the cream of Gauteng ANC leadership now, who can match Mbuyiseni or Floyd or Dalimpofu or Umphile Maotwe? I'm bringing to you the quality which you must reject. Reject it if you want. But I'm bringing to you men and women who have the ability and the capacity to isolate themselves from the crowd and give themselves an opportunity to think. We need thinkers now. And not just thinkers, the doers, the people who are going to implement, this manifesto we're talking about.
So, I've got one last question as we conclude. You know, everybody knows you're a staunch Orlando Pirates fan. Is socialist South Africa under you going to continue to allow capitalist football to continue?
Well, interestingly, Orlando Pirates was community owned.
Yeah.
I don't know its ownership status now. I don't want to get into trouble. But if you resort back to how Orlando Pirates was formed, that's not a capitalist football. That is people taking
the People's Club.
People taking ownership of their own sports. It pains me that, Rams, there is no single recording studio in Polokwane. In the whole of Limpopo, there is no theater. In the whole of Limpopo, there is no theater. And not only
in the entire province.
In the whole province, there is no theater. Not only in Limpopo, many other provinces do not have theaters. We have been, since 1994, we have been having Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture.
MECs.
And MECs. If we win, we need to close these provinces. This thing called province are the most useless things. We need a unitary state and will manage administratively differently. Premiers, MECs are going.
So you're going to have to annex the Western Cape?
No, it's part of us. We're not annexing it. It's ours. It's not going anywhere. So you bring that. There shouldn't be a single municipality. It must be a taboo. Without a recording studio, without theater, without well-funded sports department, where we must unearth talent.
Apartheid government had that.
Yeah.
Right?
And look at
and the,
your football. Our people know football. But the scouts can't scout them because they can't demonstrate that talent anywhere. There are no facilities where children are given an opportunity to show what they are made of. Nothing. I grew up in Sishiwo. There was a tennis court there, basketball court. I passed there the other day. It's dilapidated. It was for sure Nyaope boys have taken over or something. I'm like, okay, we didn't have to build a tennis court.
In reality.
It's here. Why didn't we maintain it? And an impression now is created that tennis is for white people. No. Mike, who was an ANC comrade, Mike Tefu in Sishiwo, was teaching tennis. We had Menier Siakamela teaching netball. At the courts there was fully functional, funded netball, which is not there today. For them to just get a transport.
As a result, when we had the World Cup of the netball last year, there was no girl from Sishiwo because we destroyed.
You see, and we have got a history of netball. The president of netball association was actually from Sishiwo. Yeah. So it's so painful to capitalize that which belongs to the people. The capitalists can have their footballs and what. Well, it's a democracy. But let's have the people's own sports codes. Like Orlando Pirates, how Orlando Pirates emerged. Someone said the EFF must form a football club because Kaizer Chiefs fans are tired, and I agree.
Well, I was to say, look, you say you're not going to discontinue capitalist football, but surely you must discontinue Kaizer Chiefs. But what about,
I think
really?
I think we must nationalize it. Someone said no, the EFF must from EFF FC because there is pain here, and I'm very close to Bobby, and I always talk to him about it. But not only him, the father. You remember 5 years ago in 2019 in December, when we're closing the conference of the EFF, I said, I don't understand why Kaizer Motaung is not honored as a doctor. So that he's called Dr. Kaizer Motaung for just his contribution alone in football and how him and Ivan and them professionalized that football.
They saved football.
Those people run a professional machine. I've never, not a single day, waited on a television that Pirates is going to play at 3 o'clock and then it plays at 3:10, like that State of the Nation in Parliament, which is forever late.
For the record, Ohoya's camp, he came here on time. He's saying, even I came here on time.
I came here on time.
Yeah.
So, Kaiser's contribution is unmatched. So we need to honor him. I said that in December 2019. And we got the UCT to give
finally
him.
Do this.
So there is a white man. I always get so happy when this white man speaks about me. Athol Trollip, the former mayor of Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela, yeah.
So he says, this guy has always spoken about things. He never delivered anything. At least of Kaizer Motaung, I delivered it. But the second thing I delivered it was to remove him as a mayor. I said, I'm going to cut a throat of racism, of whiteness, and I cut it, and he's till to date, he hasn't recovered from that. So every time a white man complains about me like him, I get so angry. I'm like, hey, we used to complain about these people for a very long time. Now they're complaining about us because we're in charge. I will never put Herman Mashaba, on my social media page. But he will go and take my videos and put them there because he knows his leadership. He knows where he's being led from.
Would you come into coalition with him as a matter of
We've
fact?
done.
Okay.
We remember we made him a mayor here.
I know.
And then gave him our policies and said, this is what you are going to do.
And he did.
And he did exactly.
And he got fired.
And then Helen was not happy with that.
Well, I could get fired for keeping you too long here. My time is up. That's all the time I have with you.
Yeah.
I guess we're going to have to end it somewhere. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah.
It's been amazing to have you
Thank
here.
you.
I wait to meet you as president, Julius Malema. I hope at that time you would not have nationalized me. I'll still be doing this stupid podcast. But thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Julius Malema.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much.
See you in May at the Union Building.
Eita.